Live. We're live. Robert J. Conley here. Come on in. Pull up a chair. Pour yourself a beverage. All right. This video is about the characteristics, strengths, and weaknesses of visionary leaders. And visionary leaders change the world, and they do it with their declarations. Oh, first, some housekeeping. Hey, please hit like or subscribe or both. If you benefit from this video, please share it with a friend. And if you have any questions or comments, by all means, throw them in live, or if you're watching later, put them in comments and I'll be happy to respond. All right, well, let's do our word map for visionary leaders. Words that apply: creative, curious, ridiculously curious, calm, intuitive, strategic, ingenious, resolute, pragmatic, skeptical, engineer, architect, inventor, mastermind, wizard, having that desire to change the way things are. So visionary leaders bring focus, and visionaries are what most people think of when they hear the word leader. Visionary leaders bring focus by identifying a problem to be solved. And in many, if not most cases, it's a problem that others don't even know exist. One of my favorite examples is in the mid-60s, computer engineers, it never occurred to computer engineers that punch cards were a problem. They were used to them. And along came a psychologist, not a computer guy, named Bob Taylor. And he looked at this situation and said, this is ridiculous, because he had been trained in the interaction between the eyeball and the human brain. And he said, you know what? There's a better way for the human brain to interact with computers. So his declaration set the course for what became the Apple and Microsoft graphic user interfaces. He named a problem that nobody else saw and invoked what he saw as a better strategy. Dump the cards, have the human eye and a mouse controlled by a human hand control the computer. And that was, it's been rocking our world ever since. It's funny, on the topic of strategy, I've read plenty of books on strategy, and I am convinced that half the people who have written them still don't know what strategy is. And what I'm about to say, some might think I don't know what strategy is, but in my mind, strategy is far simpler than what it's made out to be. Strategy is just a declaration of how you're going to do something. It's like, how are you going to play poker tonight? I'm going to play tight. I'm going to play loose. I'm going to play by the numbers. I'm a math guy. I'm going to go by my intuition. I'm going to focus on reading the other players. Those are all strategies. Another example, and this one I bring up because it's, well, I'll finish. I'll tell you why in a second. But first, just so like every airplane is backed by a strategy. It's like its job is to fly fast. Its job is to be maneuverable, be able to dogfight. Its job is to drop bombs, deliver cargo, land on ships. And one of the reasons I use this example is that, unfortunately, the Pentagon has a track record of allowing too many strategies to be applied to a single airplane, and they end up wasting millions. Well, now it's billions of dollars, and having less than first-rate aircraft because they can't choose just one strategy for the aircraft. So this is one of the reasons why small companies and why we want to always have new companies starting is because new companies start focused on one strategy. And one of the eventualities pretty much of every organization is that you do start having more strategies kick in, and all kinds of things happen to degrade the focus of the company. But basically, every new company starts with a declaration of a new strategy. We're going to invent it. There's something we see that's not quite as useful. We're gonna make it useful. That's the example of the punch cards and the mouse. We're going to make it fancy. We're going to make it convenient. We're going to make it convenient. That's what so much of the internet activity is. Amazon make it convenient for people to buy things. Grubhub, all these things. It's about convenient. Other strategies make it durable or make it cheaper. So I maintain that if you need more than one sentence, you really don't have a strategy. You've got a mishmash. You've got a lack of clarity. So strategy also sets the plate for how you're going to choose leaders in those other leadership areas that I've talked about in my previous 3 videos: the stabilizers, the tacticians, and the inspirational leaders. So strategy is the overarching thing that focuses the entire organization. And it's the visionaries with their strategies that rock the world by declaring what should be done. So there's 6 people I'm going to name off, and just by virtue of their declarations, they've created hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of jobs. First one, Elon Musk. And, Elon Musk, Tesla, we're going to build compelling mass market electric cars. Prior to that, there were attempts at electric cars, but they were geared towards engineering types. They weren't mass market. They were very nichey. And so, he saw this broader picture that said mass market appeal. Jeff Bezos, Amazon, the Earth's online store. Bill Gates, Microsoft, a computer on every desk. Steve Jobs said the computer isn't just a calculator, it's a communication tool. Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook, give people the power to share and make the world more connected. Phil Knight revolutionized athletic shoes with Nike. And he basically said, our purpose is to bring inspiration, innovation to every athlete in the world. And by the way, if you have a body, you're an athlete. And that's actually what he changed. He brought a pervasive use of athletic wear to the world that didn't previously exist. It completely changed everything, not just shoes. So, you can see there's profound effect from those individuals. So what are the strengths? Let's name the strengths of visionary leaders. First of all, they're high energy. You look at every one of these people that have just made enormous impact. Their energy is ridiculous. Their work ethic is ridiculous. Now, it's not to say that all visionaries share that same thing, but typically visionaries have high energy and they're energized by their vision. It's a self-feeding circle. The strength is that they bring focus to the mission of the organization. And it's interesting that there's this like balancing act, because visionaries can wear out their welcome at organizations, and they also can leave too soon and cause companies to lose their focus before they're ready for a broader picture. So visionaries are exceptional strategic thinkers. They can't not think strategically. They're gifted in the ability to simplify the complex. They invent original and innovative systems. They're typically masters of logic, which, the interconnection between math and logic and this type of activity is very strong. They have a strong ability to convert intuition into goods and services by virtue of the other leaders they pick. They typically have a good eye for spotting talent where it's needed. And then lastly, their cardinal virtue is prudence. So what is prudence? Well, prudence, first of all, there are four cardinal virtues: prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance. And prudence informs the other cardinal virtues. And prudence, way to look at prudence is wisdom in action. And it's guided by what is good for humankind. It's very important. And actually, there's a fair amount of tumult about technology right now because we're sorting through what's good for humankind, what's not. But it's the job of the innovator to look through that lens and to bring forward the ideas that are good for humankind. And it's eventually it's the market and the people that will decide if he or she is right. Yeah. So that is prudence. So what are some of the possible difficulties of visionary leaders? Well, one of the things that I alluded to a second ago is that visionary leaders are like the mirror image of stabilizing leaders. So, stabilizers stabilize, hence the name, and visionaries disrupt, and they can wear out their welcome. So the challenge is that the visionary leader is always doing his or her job of looking over the horizon, of seeing what's coming, and having that long-term strategic outlook. And one of the ways that visionary leaders can muck things up is to get too involved in day-to-day operations. Where the inspirational leaders that I spoke of on my last video and mentioned Tom Brady and his role in the success of two football coaches, and they lead with their hearts. Visionary leaders lead with their brains. Both combine intuition with that, but the inspirational leaders are more focused on what comes from their heart, and the visionaries are thinking and looking through their brains. So part of thinking is that it can seem cold, aloof. These visionaries can come across as arrogant, condescending, and it's not that it is. It's never. There are plenty of times where it's earned. That reputation is earned, but it's not necessarily a universal truth. It always takes more drilling down and getting to know the person to know. They can appear aggressive and pushy, and they are. But when you add that, they can also be tactless. That brings difficulties. Sometimes they can make decisions too quickly and be oblivious of the impact that quickness has on their colleagues, that subordinates and colleagues just need more processing time to be on board with a decision. They assume everyone understands their vision and can grow impatient with those who don't. Another challenge, which is that the opposite, I guess, of sticking around too long, is they can lose interest once an idea starts to bloom and leave before it really has fully blossomed. And in leaving, their gift of bringing focus to the operation can be diminished or disappear. And then lastly, notoriously just not interested in the mundane details. Leave that to others. And it's not that they need to be completely involved in that, but it is the role of that visionary to make sure that those mundane details do get taken care of, because as the saying goes, the devil's in the details. And so the lack of interest can actually undermine the execution that leads to the realization of the vision. All right, so when dealing with visionary leaders, you should get to the point. Stick to the facts. It's the job of others to feed facts to the visionary, and then the visionary's intuition is what forms the vision. And it is it comes back to that word that I kind of chuckled about as far as curiosity. This group, as you know, as a group, the curiosity is off the charts. So just consumers of mass amounts of information from all kinds of things, and that intuition is the thing that connects these dots that don't seem connected to others. So when you talk to them, stick to the facts and let their intuition do the job. If you're a subordinate, ask as many questions as you need in order to understand the vision. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up is that there can be times, especially if you're really new to the business world, there can be a hesitancy because the visionary might reach his limits of questioning. And so the thing to know is that, okay, it's over for now, but I'm going to continue to do everything I can and to engage conversation until I am completely clear on what the vision is and how I can cause it to become real. So another thing is that even though they will portray complete confidence in their public demeanor, there's always a churning of doubt. And so another thing is when you can get a download on where they're skeptical about their own vision. And the twofold reason for that is it will educate you, but it will also serve the visionary because that process will cause her to clarify her thinking. And so, questions can be very productive. At the same time, don't publicly or with peers question the competency of the visionary. You need to always make it about how do we make this work? Oh, I'm questioning how we make this work, but the reality is that the visionary needs others to make the vision real. And there is an innate aspect of visionaries that a lot of times look through a lens of this person's loyal or not loyal to my vision. And so when you start publicly questioning the competence of the visionary, that won't go well for you. And it's just something to be aware of. I'm not saying being a sycophant. I'm just saying choose your places. Okay. So, and don't take their manner personally. They view everyone through this lens of competence and loyalty. And especially on the competence front, they're as hard on themselves as they are everyone else around. You don't see it because it's internal, but there is a harsh inner voice that's always questioning and questioning the idea, questioning the competence, questioning everything, just an ongoing skepticism. So I want to share now some quotes from these visionary leaders. Elon Musk, when something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. So he is living that. I mean, the guy, so one of the things he's doing is he's kind of violating one of my rules in that he has got so many irons and so many different fires. It's ridiculous. And it's funny because every once in a while you read something where, he's giving some interviews where it's like, yeah, you know what? It's not that fun being Elon Musk. But if it's important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. And so he has a number of endeavors, whether it's Tesla, SpaceX, the Boring Company, a couple of other things that he considers so important that it's worth doing. Some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is disaster. And this is one of my favorites. Failure is an option here. Failure is an option here. Remember that thing about leaders create the space? He's creating the space to innovate, to try new things, and to recognize that by virtue of that, failure is going to happen. And it's about trying and about learning that is more important than it's more important that you're engaged in that process than whether or not you succeed, with the commitment being that you are eventually going to succeed. The path to the CEO's office should not be through the CFO's office. and it should not be through the marketing department. It needs to be through engineering and design. Now that is a profound statement. And what he's actually identifying is the way that companies, as they mature, actually eventually get to the point where the CFO is the route to being the CEO. And that is when you have a stabilized cash cow company, and the purpose of the company ceases to be innovation and becomes preserving cash flow and making the stockholders happy. So he basically is clear that his job right now is to keep every one of his companies on the innovation and invention path. And the last one is, there's tremendous bias against taking risks. Everyone is trying to optimize their ass covering. I mean, you couldn't ask for, just like, oh, I wonder if he runs a bureaucratic organization or a running and gunning inventing organization. Oh yeah, Elon's telling us who he is. Bill Gates, these are a little shop worn, but they're incisive as far as the mindset of visionaries. Often you have to rely on intuition. Success is a lousy teacher. It seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose. We always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years and underestimate the change that will occur in the next 10. Don't let yourself be lulled into inaction. And the last one for him was the internet is becoming the town square for the global village of tomorrow. Steve Jobs, design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works. And I mean, that's exactly what you experience with Apple products. Innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. Leaders innovate, followers copy. As I'm saying that out loud, I thought about the fact, let's be honest, Jobs and Gates both took healthily from Xerox's groundbreaking work in the graphic user interface. All right, you can't just ask customers what they want and then try to give that to them. By the time you get it built, they will want something new. Again, it's thinking ahead of the curve. And then the last one is just such a visionary statement. I want to put a ding in the universe. So there that is. And then these two, Abraham Lincoln it's so funny when you study Lincoln. He was saying things that it turns, what is it now? 150 years ago, 100 more than that. I guess about 150 years ago. That today are still, commonplace. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. Sir, my concern is not whether God is on our side. My greatest concern is to be on God's side, for God is always right. And I wanted to end, that's my last of the quotes, and I wanted to end it because it's the epitome of expressing what prudence is. It's being on the right side of God and the force in science and the forces of nature. All right, so for you visionaries out there, here's some tips for visionary leaders. Invest the time it takes for everybody on the team to understand your vision. Don't let your impatience for things get to you. Invest the time it takes for that clarity. Work on listening to others. Visionaries are not known for their listening skills. And I always hesitate to bring this example up because there's such strong feelings about him, but I think he epitomizes this in his public persona, but I hear from people who've dealt with him in person, that's not necessarily the case, but Donald Trump comes up because there is not a public persona of listening well to others. Absorb facts, especially those that might reveal flaws in your thinking. Really drill down on those facts that might reveal those flaws. That's really important. Form alliances with inspirational leaders. As I described in my previous video, talking about Tom Brady, inspirational leaders have a capacity to build belief in others that not only you're lacking, but because of some of that dynamic I mentioned earlier of of how you look harshly at people through this competence lens, that you need these inspirational leaders after, I'm going to speak a little, well, I'll say it. So, after you've been in the room, Mr. Inspirational Leader, I mean, not Mr. Visionary Leader, and you've questioned everybody's competency and called them all dumb and, or at least called their ideas dumb. That's an important thing. The really effective guys, if you're not listening carefully, you might think they're calling their people dumb. They're actually calling the ideas dumb. But anyway, that being said, to have an inspirational leader come in and build belief is jet fuel to an organization. Avoid arrogance and condescension. It is toxic. It kills people. Stay focused on a singular objective. Like I said, that's one that good old Elon is. Well, he is and he isn't. Each of his companies where he has its own leadership team, they are singular in their objective. But Abraham Lincoln said, fight only one war at a time. And that's probably why it's not that much fun to be Elon Musk, because he's fighting wars on a half a dozen fronts. Places for visionary leaders. Visionary leaders make their own place. They see things that aren't happening. And like I said, they see problems that other people don't even know exist. And they make declarations and create space. But visionary leaders are needed in every aspect of our lives. Corporate America, like I said, mature companies, unless a mature company is on a deathbed and there's a board of directors that's committed to resuscitating it, then there's room for truly visionary leaders. But for the most part, very mature, large companies are not stocked full of visionary leaders. But, visionary leaders are typically founders. They're driving science, politics, technology, consulting. Where are they needed most? They're needed most right now in education and healthcare. They're the two most screwed up industries we have. Government regulation and a bunch of other factors are just strangling those two institutions, and they need your help. Now, the other thing that I just want to mention is that in your own communities, keep your eyes out for these people that see things that nobody sees, because like I've mentioned these, they're like 1/1,000,000th of 1% visionary leaders that have just knocked it out of the park, knocked it into orbit. But there are visionary leaders all around. And if you're someone who, is not a visionary leader and you're looking for opportunity, what are the opportunities? The opportunity is to find those visionaries, see if you can catch on to what their vision is, and bring your abilities to the task of bringing the vision to reality. That's where the opportunity is. And those are not necessarily opportunities that you're going to find in the online job boards. Those are opportunities that you find by keeping your ears open, your eyes open, and just listening for vision and asking yourself, wow, what is it I could do? I don't even actually know, but I'm going to engage this visionary and I'm going to say, you know what? I like your vision. I'm interested. I'd like to see if there's someplace I can contribute. Tremendous opportunity there. And, there's, I'm going on a little bit too long, but the people who hit it out of the park in every one of the what are today multi-billion-dollar corporations are people who signed on early before the rest of the world even caught on that these guys were right. So I urge you to find one. If you're not one, find one. All right, so that's it for visionaries. Now I want you to join me next week, because I'm going to go through over the course of a week, over the next several videos, present alternative strategies and approaches for people coming out of high school, and looking at it both for the people who are coming out of high school and things that I believe companies and future employers could be doing to embrace these people, and basically in line with one of my fundamental tenets is that college isn't for everybody. In fact, college isn't for most people. So join me over the next 5 videos. I'll be talking about that. And until next time, cheers.